Hi, this is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Welcome to Morning Mindset Cafe, where today we are talking about Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, written by Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone in 1960. This is a 1969 edited or published copy. I'm sorry, I got the year wrong. It was actually published. I want to make sure I get this right. I'm a stickler. No, it was published in 1960. My apologies. My copy happens to be from 1969. Today, for those who have the book, whether it's a PDF in the live stream with me, there's a copy available to you, or you have your own hard copy. We're on chapter 6. You're on chapter 6. Hi, Cindy. Welcome. This is part 2 of the book. The book is broken up into parts, and this is part 2 that begins with 5 mental bombshells for attacking success. Mental bombshells, hence the name of today's cafe is so PMA, positive mental attitude, mental bombshell. So you have a problem. That's good. Now let's find out why. The gist of this is we're going to show you how to meet the problem, whatever it is, with a positive mental attitude, what that looks like. The idea of being good that we have a problem comes from the knowledge that repeated victory over our problems, be they emotional, physical, mental, financial, spiritual, whatever our problems are. When we have victory over them, that is one step closer. It all becomes this ladder of success, this stepping stones. If you can envision, I never could do the ladder thing, but in my mind, I envisioned these rock steps that were by craftsmen. I always think of Roman buildings and today's old architecture of the old beautiful grand libraries, that have multitude, and your financial institutions, primarily your educational institutions, will have these multiple concrete steps, right, or stone steps. So there's a stairway that starts to wind, and I don't know where the end of the stairway is. But I know that every step I take, which is the equivalent of victory over a problem, that stairway becomes my steps of success. And it's the further up I go, the more confidence I have to tackle another problem, because look at all the problems I just tackled and succeeded in solving. Just look at all that. All I have to do is look a little bit behind me and I can see all those steps that represent problems that I have overcome. So when you think about this, each victory I've had, each victory you have had, that's what I want you to think about. You are growing. I've grown. I've grown in wisdom. I've grown in stature. And I've grown in experience. And what that means is that wisdom comes from learning from the experience. Stature comes, I have to tell you, I have the respect of my peers. I have the respect of business peers as well as social peers. I enjoy that respect of my fellow man and woman. I have, in some circles, I'm viewed as a leader, and that is a rise in my stature. And yet in other circles, I am viewed as a complete equal because I'm a follower. And yet that's still a rise in stature, because it's all a part of the growth, isn't it? It's all a part of the growth. So with each victory, we grow in wisdom, stature, and experience, and we become better, and we become bigger, and we become more successful each time we meet a problem and tackle and conquer it with positive mental attitude. So think about it for a moment. Really, I want you to think about the problems you've recently solved or those from your past. And I want you to tell me if you know of a single instance where any real achievement that you made in your life or in the life of any person in history that wasn't due to a problem with which the individual was faced. So think about this. Great achievement, small achievement, victory in any way. Victory can only be had when we've solved a problem. Good morning, Craig. Now, everyone has problems. We all do. And that's because we live in a world in constant change. And it doesn't matter what you think, feel, or believe. The world around you is in constant process of change. It just is. It's a universal law. Nothing is completely still. There's change everywhere. We've changed in our environment. Just look at the weather. What can we control? Nothing except our own thoughts. We have constant change in our environments. People are always doing things that make me scratch my head, stop, pause, learn from. Because if I'm around people, I'm in constant change, aren't I? Because everybody else is expressing what's happening in their world, which is different than my world. So we are in this constant process of change. It's an inexorable, love that word, natural law. What is important to you is that your success or failure to meet the challenges of change are dependent on your mental attitude. You can direct your thoughts and control your emotions and thus regulate your attitude. You and me. I can do that. I can choose whether my attitude is going to be positive or negative. I can decide whether I will affect, use, control, or harmonize with the changes in myself and my environment. I can ordain my destiny. I can have some control of the path I take, of the direction I'm going. When you meet the challenges of change with positive mental attitude, you can intelligently solve the problem with which you are confronted. Isn't that nice to know? Perspective and attitude, primarily attitude. How am I going to look at this? Am I going to sit and say, oh, woe is me, life just stinks. Just stinks. It's awful. It's always awful. All these things always happen to me. Or am I going to say, dang, it stinks. All right. It's temporary. Well, what can I do about it? Can I do anything about it? Is it any part of this in my control? Yes. All right. It's time for me to get to work and put some action in there and get rid of the problem, solve it, change it, whatever needs to be done. The answer is no. All right. Then guess what? I need to just put it in perspective that says, it stinks. I wish it were different. There's not a thing I can do right now. It's time for me to focus my attention on that which I can have an impact on. All right. Having said all that, that's my view in a nutshell. Let's see how we are told through this book how to meet a problem with positive mental attitude. If you know and believe the first principal element of a positive mental attitude, God is always a good God, then you can effectively use the following formula and meet your problems. Regardless of how perplexing the problem may be, I'm just going to go straight out of the book and tell you that, number one, the first thing you do is ask for divine guidance. Ask for help in finding the right solution. 2, think. 3, state the problem, analyze, and define it. 4, state to yourself enthusiastically, that's good. 5, ask yourself some specific questions. What's good about it? How can I turn this adversity into a seed of equivalent or greater benefit? Or how can I turn this liability into a greater asset? 6, Keep searching for answers to these questions until you find at least one answer that can work. Now, the problems that will confront you will, broadly speaking, be of two kinds: personal, emotional, financial, mental, moral, physical, and business or professional problems. Now, because personal problems are the most immediate problems experienced by every one of us, you, me, everyone here, there are stories in this book that can help us to focus our attention on how to see our personal problems differently. And we can look at those later. Because right now, I want to talk about tackling a problem with positive mental attitude. You're just in time, Karen and Catherine. Good morning. Good to see you. All right. So the first thing is that God is a good God. Straight out of the book. So knowing that, are we able to, I'm just going to put this to you. I'd love to have some discussion on this, these 6 steps. The first thing is to ask for divine guidance. Ask for help in finding the right solution. Good morning, Walter. What does that look like to you? You know what it looks like to me. What does that look like to you? Ask for divine guidance. Ask for help in finding the right solution. It's the first of 6 steps to tackling a problem with positive mental attitude. What do you think? Tell me. Either join me in the live stream or tell me in the chat. What does that look like for you? Karen was just thinking about that with the situation she's facing. Okay. Catherine, that's like describing a color to someone that doesn't see. I know. Just wondering if you're able to give us any insight into what that looks like for you. Asking for divine guidance, asking for help in finding the right solution. Anybody else like to jump in? Well, I can tell you that asking oneself how I was part of creating this problem, because if I can change anything about it at all, it will be within the realm of my influence to the situation. Okay. Seeking God for wisdom and self-control. This morning I invested in 30 minutes of quiet time and repeated to myself what it was I wanted to see manifested in my life. Okay. But you've been presented with a problem. You hit a wall. You hit a wall. And you're stuck. And it's one of those walls that could say, well, this always happens to me. I'm tired of this always happening. Sometimes just being quiet and still so your decisions aren't emotionally charged. Okay? So this is what mine looks like. And I'll tell you a couple of different scenarios of what it looks like. Sometimes when I am just struggling, like, I can't see the answer, and I throw up my hands, and I literally will do this. Okay, God, it's all yours. I'm just going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to ask you to then give it back to me and give me some answers. Show me what I'm not seeing. So I've done that. I've walked away. literally walked away from the situation, from the desk. Take a breath and say, okay, God, I need your help here. I'm calling on you to help me to see clearly, to see differently. Anything you can do to help me with that right now would be really, really cool. Then another way it looks is, and I only know this because my husband has pointed it out, and that is when I'm talking to myself. And he says, Charlene, you do know you pray all the time. I said, no. He says, yeah, I can hear you. And this is what basically what I'm muttering is, God, I'm waiting for you to help me see this clearly, and it's not happening right now. But that's okay. That's okay. We'll get through this. So that's kind of what it looks like to me, for me to ask for divine guidance. Now, when it's a big deal, and I mean huge, right? The world is crashing down, and the rug's been pulled out from under me. Yes, this has happened numerous times in my life. It is a call for help. It is a sincere asking of God to intervene, to calm my heart, calm my mind, help me get through this. So that's what it looks like to me. So we have divine guidance, intervention, or divine love. When you hit a wall, you need compassion. I need to put something in my mind so much that it becomes the default thought in my life. Okay? Ask, wait, and pay attention to change. I think before I ask for guidance, I would ask for love and compassion, for I need to feel anchored before I can be guided. Sometimes the change is in us first, our anxiety, frustration, or fear. And what do you do if you feel it's a 911? Oh yeah, that's the, okay, I'm done. It's in your hands. I don't have answers right now, and I need your help getting those answers. That's what it looks like to me. So that's the first step, right? Just ask. Calm down, because what's urgent to me isn't to God. So let's look at this. We have a problem. And just take a breath. And instead of hitting that wall, trying to find all these solutions on our own, hey, wait a second. The positive mental attitude says, just take a breath. Ask for some divine guidance. Tap into the other. Tap into the what we've called throughout. It's a combination of divine guidance with infinite intelligence, into the ether, other gods, depending on the formal religious structure you're in, and all of that. Okay, doesn't matter. As long as you believe in something, you're going to tap into it when you ask and when you think of it. Now that we've tapped into it, now we think. And to me, that's the take a step back. Take a breath. Ask for divine guidance and rest a moment. Calm the thinking, calm the thoughts. Now let's get to thinking just strictly on possible solutions to the problem. State the problem. State it. Not write it down, not think about it. State it aloud. State it. Say it out loud. Analyze and define it. Let's figure out what really the problem is. Because if we're just a mass of emotion or roiling thoughts, it's all well and good to ask for an answer, but we don't even know what the problem is. And sometimes when we're so deep into something, we can't see what the problem is. I mean, haven't you ever done this? Gotten yourself all worked up over something, really ticked off that the customers aren't, really annoyed. I mean, I don't get ticked off that much. I really don't. Really annoyed when a customer gets offensive or insulting. They don't know that they're insulting and they're offensive, but I'm taking it that way. Um, the recent one for me was, here's an example in business. Customer had been told that the work that was being done was valued at almost 10 times more than they were being charged. Because I honored a proposal, I honored a signed contract. When we got into the work, there was more involved. But that was our fault because we didn't view clearly what the problem was, right? We didn't go deep enough in analyzing what the problem was. So when we provided a proposal and a contract was signed, it was based on what we said the problem was. So we honored that. Customer knows this, has been told. Customer comes back with what could easily be, say, an entitled attitude, and with that attitude says things that are actually insulting and offensive to a business person who has just told you, you just got great value out of this, such as the extra 10 minutes that it took for me to get through this is absolutely unacceptable. It appears I'm going to have to look at other options. So that's an attitude that comes through. That's just a smidge of some of the conversation that was had. So there's a problem, right? Okay. Took care of that problem. But the residual of that on my side was that I'm like, I'm really annoyed. This got to me. Thought I had taken care of it, but I hadn't, because now I'm getting snippy with other people. Why am I getting snippy? Because they're not doing what I want them to do. That's not the problem. State it out loud. Ask for divine guidance. Think and state the problem aloud. I'm getting snippy. Let's analyze and define it. I'm getting snippy. I'm feeling a little, annoyed. Is it really because he or she over here, this isn't making sense why I'm thinking that that's annoying me. It didn't annoy me yesterday. So what's the real problem? Take a step back, take another breath. Let's think and analyze it. Let's define it. The real problem is I'm still annoyed at the communication with the customer from either this morning or the day before. And it's like this emotional hangover, right? Well, that's the problem. And I'm seeing now that it's impacting how I'm communicating with other people. Well, that's good. See, that's step number 4. So I've asked for divine guidance, I think. Now I've stated the problem aloud, analyzed and really defined it. Now I can say to myself, well, that's good. I now have something to solve. Now I know what the problem is. So what's good about it? Just that. And I've identified the real problem. How can I turn this adversity into a seed of equal or greater benefit? Or how can I turn it in a liability into an asset? So a seed of equivalent or greater benefit because it was an adversity. Well, this is what ended up happening with me is I went back to the people that I had been communicating with, and I apologized for my behavior, and I showed a little vulnerability. I didn't explain all the details. I just told them that I had some unresolved annoyances that I'm taking care of now. But out of that, you got the brunt of my short-sightedness and my snippiness and my frustration. But you want to keep searching for answers until you come up with one that actually is going to work. And that's what I came up with. And it worked beautifully. Because now I've repaired some of those relationships. And it's small tears, right? Small tears. I don't care if it's business. I don't care if it's personal. If I'm dealing with people, those small tears in communication, miscommunication, misunderstanding in a relationship can rip huge if they're not taken care of, if they're not mended along the way. And so that's just one small example. But those are the 6 steps. That's what we tackle them with, right? So you ask for divine guidance. Ask for help in finding the right solution. Then you think. Now state the problem, analyze and define it. And then state to yourself enthusiastically, that's good. Because you've just identified the actual problem. Now you can look for a solution. And let's ask some specific questions. Number 5, ask specific questions. What's good about it? And how can I turn this adversity into a seed of equivalent or greater benefit? How can I turn this liability into a greater asset? And finally, continue to ask those questions. Keep searching for answers to those questions until you find at least one answer that can work. And so as we said, the problems you and I have in general will be of 2 kinds. They'll be personal, so that'll be emotional, one I just spoke of, right? Emotional, financial, mental, moral, physical, and business or professional problems. So mine was actually a business problem that I took with me into the personal. How can you not? All right. But there are business problems that can be tackled with exactly the same thing. The customer's check bounced. How's that? The big contract was canceled. This month's revenue has been shortened and reduced because of a loss of a customer or the ending of a contract. That's a financial problem in the business world, quite real. You know, the pipeline was full, anticipated the signing of 3 contracts that were going to bring in, X amount of dollars so that I could plan for the next 3 months production schedules. Yes, that's what we call them here, even when it's an online world, because we're still producing and creating creation schedules, and making plans for those. And suddenly one decides they're not going to sign the contract. There's an issue. It affects the business financially. It affects future programs based on the assumption that those monies were going to be coming through. Okay. So take a step back, take a breath, ask, all right, God, how are we going to, I need your help here. I got to figure this out. Can't see. Exactly. Can't see. Right. So, think, all right, help me find an answer to this. Now, here's the funny part. Most people in business, and I've come across this so many times, especially with solo business owners, and what I mean by that is people who haven't been in business very long. Or those who don't own a business, the first response is, well, you need to sell more stuff. Yes. But you can't just react constantly to that, or else now you're in a cycle of working inside the business and never working on the business, so nothing ever grows. So there's a process. Sounds simple, and it actually is. Got 3 contracts. Was anticipated all 3 would be signed this week. Only 2 were signed. I had made plans for all 3. The first thing is, well, I've got to adjust those plans. The second thing is, let's take a look, because it could be that I could save that 3rd contract. That's why you don't just jump in and say, oh, well, I'm going to ignore you and leave you be, and I'm going to go out and sell more stuff. A salesperson can do that. That's their job. The business owner can't do that. Simply can. Otherwise, it's constantly going out chasing the sale. There's better ways to do it. So that's how you tackle it, with a positive mental attitude, instead of throwing up the hands and saying, oh, my Lord, the whole business is going to come crashing down. Or here we go again. I can't do this. Often we can't see the positive piece until we're out of it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Depending on what the situation is and how deep it goes. Absolutely. Is there anything I can be done with the third contract to have the person sign it? Exactly. And that's one of the, there's the problem, right? That's the questions that can be answered. That's what we're talking about. Take a step back. All right. They're not signing the contract. What's the problem? Let's think on this. Let's ask for divine guidance. Tap into that different intelligence, right? The infinite intelligence, God, whomever, whatever you call that. Let's state the problem aloud. They're not signing the contract. So, that's good. It's good because now I've identified the problem. Let's start asking questions. What can I do? Is there anything that can be done? What questions should I be asking of the customer? You know, we take this further, but those are the 6 steps. We take those further into, you got to know what the problem is before you can solve it. And sometimes, and a lot of times, don't we get so wrapped up in what the problem is and living in the problem that we forget to ask for help to find a solution? A lot of us do that. Welcome, Linda. Good to have you here. Good morning, Yuri. Nice to see you again. So, any other comments about those 6 steps of tackling a problem with positive mental attitude? That actually what we're doing is it's a way to change our thinking so that we are living in the solution rather than living in the problem. A negative mental attitude has you stuck, right? You know, that survival mode, the just get by today, the living paycheck to paycheck, very, very short-term thinking. Whereas positive mental attitude, let's seek the solution to it. And that's obviously not happening right now, so I'm just going to ask God for a little bit of help. Point me in the right direction. You know, help me think differently. What do you think? Very rewarding to feel God's love via his miracles because we cared for others first in impossible situations. I don't want to sound idealistic, but it really is the most effective and most uplifting way to get through to the other side, even if things will permanently change. Thanks for sharing that, Maya. Thank you. Any other thoughts? And then Karen is saying, yay, Maya, you're talking to me. Good. So how do you tackle problems? Is this a better way? Is this a different way? Is this a way that doesn't make sense to you because of the way that you tackle problems? Makes sense totally, Karen. Makes sense totally to me too. I mean, that's the way I see. If it, you know, I've talked about what ifs. You know, and the what if game. As an engineer, troubleshooting. I mean, those are problems, right? That's a business problem. Got a piece of equipment that just flat isn't going to work on its own. It's just broken. Something's broken. Well, you know, classic troubleshooting steps include, well, we need to figure out exactly what the root cause of the problem is. Well, now, I'll admit that in many cases in my field engineer days, when I was out in field service, I didn't ask God. I did every once in a while. I remember asking him, "Oh, I'm not seeing this one. Come on, I need some help here." But the steps were still the same, which are to calm down, let's get an overview, right? Let's get the overview of what's happening. Now let's try to identify the root cause, the real problem. Think, analyze, and define what the problem actually is. Because sometimes it's not the obvious. And then begin asking those questions. And in a troubleshooting setting or an equipment fixing setting, it's what if we were to move this? What if we were to change out this part? What if we were to change this piece of code? What if we were, literally, what if we were to move the piece of equipment further away from the energy field that is emanating from this piece of equipment? Keep asking the questions. Keep asking those kind of questions until you find a solution. Walter, I tend to look at problems head on while searching for solutions. Beautiful. That's a simpler way of saying what I just went through, isn't it? Oh, Cindy, reaction is easier than action. It is. It's amazing how the most difficult solution is what should be the easiest. Stop, breathe, and regroup. Instead, we often literally and figuratively hold our breath, draw in our breath in the anger response. Yeah, that often happens, right? It's because it's that frustration. Ever played with the Chinese finger toy? I wish I had one here. Anybody know what I'm talking about? The braided, hollow, that's all it is, just a hollow tube, but it's braided, right? Chinese handcuffs. Okay, so you stick your finger in and you try to get your fingers out. And the harder you pull, the tighter it gets. The more you fight it, the worse the problem gets. What's the problem? My fingers are stuck in this dang, Chinese finger puzzle. In this dang finger puzzle. How in the world can I get this out? How many of you, done this, tried to, right? And yet the solution is so very simple. The solution is to relax, push in, and then start moving a finger out and move a finger out. It's very similar to if I come to you to communicate with you with that frustration from yesterday, the experience I had yesterday, I'm going to come to you with a very tight grip because I'm trying to control myself. I'm aware that I'm frustrated, but I don't want you to feel the frustration, which of course means you're going to feel it because I'm coming to you with a tight grip in my hands, right? I want to work with you. Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? My words are reflective of that frustration that I had yesterday. So these 6 steps are the answer to relieving that frustration so that I can come to you with an open hand, which is going to be reflected in the words that I use and the attitude that I use. So if I'm living in the problem, if that's the way I tackle things, it's always fighting, always struggling, whether it's personal or business, always wanting to just jump in. I'm always the fixer. See that anger, right? Instead of, wait a minute. One thing at a time. Let's tackle this. Let's identify the problem. Let's identify a solution. Put the solution. Solution-oriented, problem-oriented. Negative mental attitude, positive mental attitude. That's the best way I can describe it. Good morning, Erin. It's good to see you this morning. Welcome. Hi, Linda. Welcome. Good morning, Christopher. So, does any of that make sense? And Maya, the PDF of the book is in the live stream. You are welcome to download it. Oh, any thoughts? What do you all think? Yes, the puzzle is designed to turn problems into solutions. Thank you, Walter. Cindy, good point. If we hold on to someone in both personal or business relationships, most people start to feel smothered and run for the hills. Yeah, if we're holding on to something so tightly that we can't see a way out, couldn't punch our way out of a wet paper bag, right? Right? It's because we're so narrow focused. Because it's so important to us. And we don't want this ever to happen again, but it's always going to happen because life is that way and we always have to hang on to this stuff, right? Or we always have to do things this way because it's the way it's always been done. Let's go to business. It's the way it's always been done. No, it's not. No, it's not. Taxi service was disrupted with Uber. Hotels industry disrupted with Airbnb. Publishing companies were disrupted with the internet. And we can go on. Doesn't always have to be this way. Good morning, Bill. Welcome. Christopher, Rashim, good to see you. So Maya, it is refreshing to hear words that create order in the chaos of problems. Often, if we have an organized mind about a problem, we are so much more able to have authority over it. What an excellent way to put that. Because that's really what we're doing, isn't it? That's really what we're doing. Often, how often do we sit in the problem? And that's what, yes, it can be chaotic. These steps help us to step into the solution and to create order. Let's get down to the root cause. Now that we know what the problem is, we can say good, because now we know what the problem is. Analyze it, define it. Let's ask for solutions. And the interesting thing is that some people will get stuck on there only has to be one solution. So I'm going to take the first one that comes to mind. And what we're taught here, and what is true, is that you need to keep asking the question because there's going to be multiple possible solutions. And just allow yourself to see more than one and then pick the best one. The one that fits the problem you've identified. That's what successful people do. And that's what tackling a problem with positive mental attitude is all about. I love the way you said that, Maya, is about creating order out of the chaos. Detaching from the outcome is half the solution. Yeah, that's why we ask for divine guidance. That's exactly why we ask for divine guidance, is to detach ourselves from the outcome. Is to say, I don't have the answer here. And let's find out what that answer is. I'm going to ask you something other than myself. I call that God. Others call it infinite intelligence. Some call it the ether, whatever you call it. Hey, help. Help me find some answers. Help me see this differently. Hey. Oh, love. Hi, Rashim. Love that allow yourself to see more than one solution. Thank you. That's the detaching from the outcome, isn't it? And Maya's asking, where's the live stream where I can download the PDF? Can you see in the seat next to me the cover, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude? If you can see that, then you hover in the top right corner, should have a pop-out, and that pop-out should take you to the download. If it doesn't, let me know, and I'll get the link and put it in the chat area. Oh, thank you, Rashim. There you go. There you go, Maya. There's the link for you. So any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts that you'd like to share as we approach the top of the hour? I'm double checking my calendar right now because I want to make sure that I can stay here for, yeah, I'm good. I'm good on time. I don't have to rush out. All right, so a quick review. No, I don't mind Rashim at all. Don't mind a quick review at all. So I'm on chapter 6 of the book, and it is titled, You've Got a Problem. That's good. And the idea is that every time we have victory over a problem, we are, in the book it says, because repeated victories over your problems are the rungs on your ladder of success. My visual is stone steps. So a stone or concrete stairway that is a spiral. And when I start walking up those steps, each step being a victory over a problem, then I get to the point where I'm able to look back and get more confidence because of all those victories I had along the way. And any real achievement only happens through the struggle of having victory over a problem. And every one of us has problems. So what we're talking about is how to meet those problems with a positive mental attitude. And there's 6 steps. The first step is ask for divine guidance. Ask for help in finding the right solution. The second step, think. Third step, state the problem, analyze and define it. Step 4, state to yourself enthusiastically, that's good. 5, ask yourself some specific questions, such as, what's good about it? How can I turn this adversity into a seed of equivalent or greater benefit? How can I turn this liability into a greater asset? It's a little guide to ask yourself specific questions. And 6, keep searching for answers to these questions until you find at least one answer that can work. That's what tackling a problem with positive mental attitude looks like. And when we're talking problems, we're talking in general two types. Got the personal, which are emotional, financial, mental, moral, and physical. And then we have business or professional problems. So did that help? That's it. That's what we've been talking about or that's what I've been talking about, and a few of you have jumped in. Thank you. For today's morning mindset, which is that my takeaway, here's my takeaway, is that I don't have to stay stuck in the problem. I can get into the solution. And the way to do that are these 6 steps. I can take a step back. I can ask for divine guidance. Then I can think, take a breath. Then I state the problem aloud. State it. Say it out loud. Analyze it and define it so I know exactly what the problem is. One thing I've not done, and this is sticking with me now, is to say that's good. And that's good because I've just really identified what the problem is. Now I know what to solve. Now I know what needs an answer. And then look through possible solutions until I find one that works. Rashim, I like that it gives you a process of getting out of the stuckness of the problem. Yeah, that's what I like as well. Those 6 steps, they work. I mean, these are things that I've applied. Of course, I forget and get all wrapped up, don't I? Yeah, you ever do that to yourself? And look back and say, why did I waste all that time and energy? When all I had to do was let go, relax, ask for some help, and say, I'm stuck. I'm stuck. It's time to get unstuck. Well, those are the 6 steps to getting unstuck. All right, well, we're nearing the top of the hour. I'm going to close out the recording. I can stay in the room for a while and we can continue the discussion. But first, I want to know if you have any takeaways. Something that you can take away today with you. Something that's good. Good, Maya. Something that can help get you through the day, or to take with you and to try something new, or as a reminder. Rashim, my biggest takeaway is to explore multiple solutions. That is a big one. All right, then. I want to thank you all for joining me today for Morning Mindset Cafe. Thank you for the comments. Terrific contributions to the discussion. Thank you to those watching the replay. Appreciate you staying with us this long. Because Blab does not really like to have scheduled blabs that are easy to find, I have a page on the website at growbecause.com//blabs, where this week's blabs are, all the links are there, and you can go there to subscribe and be notified when we go live, and join us weekday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for being here. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Let's move forward with the day on purpose, with purpose, to grow our hearts, grow our minds, and grow our businesses. Until next time, have a great day.